Okay, we are back. Looks like Disney continues to break higher. Looking pretty good. Nice buy signal today. Entry earlier. Testing this 109.49 level shortly as we are trading at 109.22. So that'll be a swing into next week. Let's just check Disney earnings. February the 7th. So we got a week and a half until earnings on Disney, which would be Tuesday, February the 7th, according to NASDAQ. All right, so we'll double check that over the weekend, but this looks good for a swing. Disney was an entry earlier today, looking very good. And what got our interest was the media group, media and broadcasting. As Liberty Global continued to push higher. We looked at Disney and some of the other names in that group. Nope. Comcast is what I was looking for. As you can see, Comcast is trailing higher too. SPY continues to oscillate along these levels, just below VWAP. Okay, so that's Disney. And Netflix, I saw traders in the room. We're still in that. It's looking good. Look at the 15-minute. Pulling back to the rising 9 EMA and continues to push above those pivot levels we were watching prior to lunch. As we pushed above those, we hit 142, came back to the 9 EMA, and now we are looking like this will push higher. Note the trailing stop underneath, just above 141. So the initial entry on this one was down here around 140.50 or so. Got a nice bounce, and then prices moved higher. A number of you are watching SPY and the SP 500 on Ichimoku version. Where we saw price action and Chiku bounce off of price action right here and continued higher on that breakout this week on Wednesday. And the 60-minute moving sideways, Chiku is above price, consolidating as Kumo continues to push higher on that time frame. Let's take a look at the sectors going into the evening. And we'll see how things are going there. So IYR rolled over. We don't have any positions there. We did have a position a couple of weeks ago in CoreSite. That continues to flag now, as well as DLR. So those two are still hanging out near highs. Potential for a double top on DLR. Note MACD is turning, STO is turning lower, RSI is turning lower, as we're seeing a little bit of profit taking with the sector showing some weakness today. So it's dropping below the 200 period moving average. Extend this trend line out. We could be coming back to test that. RSI is trending lower, and stochastic looks like it wants to get down below 20 and turn. Check the volume, and let's take a look at transports. Those were doing well this week, and we see a little bit of a hanging man at the upper Bollinger Band. Some wick action, so we saw some buyers step in at the lows today as we print a double top. MACD's turning up, decent volume in this sector. So there's a number of names in this group that we'll cover over the weekend in the weekend video newsletter out to members. If you're interested, come check us out at theclosingprint.com. Click on the blog and that'll take you right to a link to check out the subscription service. So IYT looks good. Double top, maybe a handle there. IYR we talked about. XBI is holding. We got this triangle pattern right in the middle. Bollinger Bands are starting to tighten, so we could hang out here a little bit longer as stochastic move lower. As stochastic moves higher, MACD moves a little bit lower, and RSI stays above 50. So we'll keep an eye on biotech, some potential there as XLV started to move. And we got XLB flagging out after a nice breakout this week. RSI is overbought, so maybe this hangs out for a little while, flags back to the 42, 42.25 level, or the 9 EMA catches up, and then we could push higher. Materials, industrials, transports, they should perform well considering new policies coming into place, more pro-growth business, less regulation. We would anticipate that price action will respond as it has been since the election, despite all of the bearish commentary. So XLE was a little disappointing. We saw this descending channel. Price action moved above early in the week and then reversed today and got back down below the 9 and 20. So 9 and 20 are descending. RSI is turning lower. MACD is turning down. And stochastics is turning down from overbought. Excuse me. So with price action below the 9 and the 20, you would anticipate that this will remain resistance as this drifts a bit lower. So we got this volume by price band. If this drops into the Kirby, this could accelerate down to these pivot highs at some point. Hopefully this will just be a higher low and just a small amount of selling into the end of the month, and energy can get back above the 9 and the 20. We have to wait until then because price says currently to stay more on the sidelines or stay short. So XLF, 3 candle reversal pattern there, could come back down to the 9 and 20 EMA. We're at these pivot highs, so we're still consolidating in this range. Some of the banks look good, some don't. The majority of them look pretty decent. And there's about 10 of them on the IBD 50 this week, so those tend to look better. XLI also at the upper Bollinger Band, 3-candle reversal. Not really taking out the lows of the session yesterday, so we're still hanging out there at highs. Engulfing candle. Decent volume this week. So XLI looks okay. XLK, Doji at highs. We had a lot of action in Baba, Amazon, FANG stocks in general this week, and Google, of course, with earnings. So XLK is embedded, stochastic, as well as RSI, and MACD is tilting up, decent volume. So we'll see how this plays out next week, and if we have any setups. So Staples, considered a defensive sector, is moving lower. It's trading currently right below the 200 period moving average and the 9 EMA. RSI is turning down, so that's probably going to experience some more downside short term. We're still putting in higher lows though. XLU down below the 200 as well. So both defensive sectors are somewhat weak. This is one we'd like to see continue into next week. A continuation candle on Monday would be nice. Get back above the 9 and the 20, trigger that buy signal at 70.28 and help catapult prices back above these volume by price bands and the 200 period moving average. Stochastic has already turned and moving higher, and RSI looks like it's going to continue as well. Okay, so MACD looks like it's going to turn as well. I'd like to see some more volume picking up. And that should help XBI and IBB. All right, so XLY, consumer discretionary, pushed higher this week as well, above that double top congestion zone in an area of no overhead supply. I guess Disney would also be considered not only media and broadcasting, but also in the consumer discretionary group. So we do have some potential in this sector. Generally speaking, if you're bullish equities, you want XLP to be moving lower, and you want XLY to be moving higher. And a ratio between those two is very telling. Whenever we see this ratio between XLP and XLY moving lower, that's bullish for equities. And each time we've turned down, you can see the S&P continued to move higher, the gray area in the background. So back in February, this ratio started to drop dramatically, and of course we had our February bottom and prices moved higher. Each time the ratio moves higher, we see sideways action or slightly lower in most cases. So keep an eye on this ratio. If you remember, this is in Vinny's charts on the site. Okay, so let's see what's going on with SPY. Market internals still bearish. Volume 1.7 to 1. Considered choppy anytime you see a 1 in front of these two. So 1.69, 1.7 to 1. NYUD has been firmly below the zero line all day. We did have tick cumulative turn up, however. That's usually an indication that institutions are buying on the uptick, so they could be covering positions into the end of the day as price action continues to move sideways. And MACD is showing little momentum. RSI as well. So as people have been mentioning in the trading room, someone loves Disney. So we're really moving now. 109.35. We're only 14 cents away to a new high. And note the slope in the EMAs, what we call SOTMA. We have a buy signal here, noted by this dot. As price action pushed through this series of dots overhead, that's SAR, if you're interested, parabolic SAR. So RSI is trending higher. That shows that we could see a bit more upside. And the relative strength still is up. We have nice volume. So institutions are sneaking in there. And MACD is trying to turn above the zero line and bullish. And the histogram is printing shorter red bars. So that's heading towards the zero line in the right direction. If you're bullish, if you're bearish, cover your shorts. I say that in jest. So let's see what else is moving. Percent most active. We got FCX. Crimson mentioned that one in the room today. Still pretty much where it was when we last looked at it, but we're keeping an eye on it. Just off the top of my head, when you're talking copper and ferrous metals and so forth, non-ferrous metals, when copper is moving higher, that's generally a benchmark for good things to come with builders. We had a nice week, and then we see some profit taking from those highs, the double top. D.H. Horton is also in that group. Seeing a flag above the 200 period. We had we have markdown here, phase 4. Phase 1, a base building. So we can see in the volume by price bands. Then the 9 and the 20 got on top of each other, and price action moved above both. MACD turned up, STO turned up, RSI turned up, and we get a bullish change of trend. So now price action's flagging above the 200 period. It could come back down to this level and the 9 period EMA, and this volume by price band, all in the same confluence zone. So be aware of it. Some other names in the group, Lennar, doing something similar. Hovnavian, that one had quite a run from the election, and then had some profit taking recently, as we can see in the chart, and bounced. And now we're trying to put in higher lows. We need to put in a higher high, because right now we have lower highs and back down below the 9 and the 20. There's a lot of names in the construction industry groups that we'll look at as well this weekend for members, and look for some setups into the watch list into next week. So let's look at the watch list, how it fared this week. We had Amazon was on the top of the list. That was a Monday entry. Tuesday it broke out. Wednesday, Thursday we hit the highs, 843.84. See some profit taking yesterday and into today. The bullish SOTMA continues to move higher. Earnings are in the near future. I believe if we go to Amazon, I checked this yesterday, but we'll check it again. And you go down to the bottom of the page and look at investor relations. Where are you? There you are, over there on the left. Okay. And that gives you when the earnings conference call is on the 2nd of February. So that would be Thursday next week if you are trading Amazon. So the entry on Amazon was 808 or better. We were looking for 15 points plus or minus, looking at the current pattern as a pretense, and we got what we were looking for and a little bit more. So that was the top of the list. Then we looked at Live, L-I-V-E. That was in the group with Melly, Amazon. Actually, Amazon is number 7 as ranked by IBD. And Two Cows and Live are higher in the list. This one trades fairly little volume, so this one's more risky. You can see it's only traded, Two Cows as well, only traded 88,000 shares today, 89,000. So it's building a ascending flag pattern and showed up on a scan last Friday as it bolted higher. Baba, of course, because we saw Two Cows and the other stocks setting up along with Amazon. That was a nice setup this week. On Monday, gapped up on Tuesday earnings. Wednesday, Thursday moved higher and then trailed off a little bit, profit taking into the end of the week. Ozark was also on the list, and that was mainly because of banks and the action we were seeing. So we see some dojis at the upper Bollinger Bands. Expect this to continue to flag into the 55 level as we're on a buy signal all week. Let's check Disney real quick while we're doing this. Okay, Disney is bolting higher. So we're at 109.38. We are 11 cents below a new high on some decent volume. So we'll watch that into the close. That's a swing into next week. EXP, that one saw some profit taking after a nice run from the Monday watch list. We looked at that one as well at 100.65 or better. And it reported earnings this week on the 24th. We see 2 wicks at high, so there's some, we'll remember this for next week, that we have sellers up there at 110 and had some decent volume on earnings. ESNT was also on the watch list. That one faded a couple of days into Monday, Tuesday, and then bolted higher into the end of the week. So that's a nice little run, $1.50 on that stock. MACD crossed. Stochastic's now overbought and RSI is turning down. So this could come back to this 33.94 level and consolidate, and we'll take another look at it. Okay, so far so good. Decent watch list, decent gains in all of these stocks. Not a bad hit ratio. Some of the semiconductors looked good as well to start the week. We had MCHP at 66.95 or better. We were looking for 6 points in the short term, and that looks like it's going to push higher. A little bit of an inside day today. Yesterday's downside, fairly large candle. RSI is turning back up, however, and we're still on a buy signal as SOTMA continues to slope higher. And MACD and STO is embedded. So look for semiconductors to continue to perform. We were looking at NVIDIA and a few other stocks. Some of you in the trading room are in NVIDIA today and have been since Wednesday. I believe Gino's been in since Wednesday. Doing well there. Actually, Tuesday, right? Moved higher on Wednesday, sideways Thursday, and higher Friday. So we're looking good, 111.84. So that's a good distance above the entry levels that Gino had. I believe he had 105, or was it 107? 107, I believe you were, right? Okay, so Gino, I believe, is still in NVIDIA. No reason to get rid of it. I got out of it earlier today. I got sidetracked, did some things. I didn't like what I was seeing on the 5-minute there briefly, and I got out for a few pennies gain. What we got out of was CPE. We had a trade on that yesterday, and that started to reverse on us. And we saw what XLE was doing, so we got out of CPE, and we gained 10 cents there on 300 shares. Still holding the 9 and the 20, so we can come back into this on Monday. If XLE gets back above its 9 and 20 EMA, as we just mentioned earlier, then we could reinvestigate this because it looks like it's trying to change trends. It's above the 200 period moving average. RSI is moving higher. So we did get rid of that. We had WNC, which is in the group that has commercial vehicles. There's quite a few names in this group that are doing quite well. We moved lower today, tested this gap high, and reversed. We saw buyers step in. Note the nice bullish SOTMA. The EMAs are sloping strong to the upside. We have RSI embedded, and that typically we call that muscle, as RSI stays embedded when there's a very strong trend in effect. And each time it comes down to the 9 or the 20 EMA, we look for a bounce, especially when we see a trend of this strength. Okay, trades around 500,000 shares or more, probably around 800,000 shares a day, so it does meet some criteria. PCLN, Vantair has been trading this one over the last several weeks, and this just continues to bolt higher. Quite a day today, plus $18.97 currently. So Vantair, I believe, is in calls on this one. So congratulations on that. SPY just continues to trudge sideways. So when SPY is doing this, consolidating above highs, there's no reason to get panicky. It just means we're probably going to consolidate up here above these levels. So if we look at Rinco, we're still printing red bricks. We need to see a white brick. Otherwise, the trend is still down, as you can see in this descending pattern. We have a descending trend line overhead. We're moving sideways into it, and we could conceivably drop lower. We have block trades that occurred here at 229.28. There was about 2.5 million shares that traded earlier today. I haven't checked the room to see what we have on store for now. Let me take a look real quick. So Crimson just updated the blocks. You can see what's traded today, 228.97. And that was not too long ago, as you can see here. 153. Most of these are 229.28. And some at 228.83 and 228.97. So those are overhead and will offer some resistance for a bullish move to the upside right along this trend line. So keep that in mind going into the weekend. We can study that and put together a game plan for next week. Let's take a look at internals, and not much change here. We do have down volume dissipating. Look at up volume starting to pick up for the first time today. And we have tick cumulative moving higher, which is telling you institutions are buying at the ask, not selling at the bid, as this cumulative indicator continues to climb. Okay, let's take a look at SPY daily. Yeah, we'll do it right here. So what we anticipated this morning when we sent out the blog post is that we broke above these levels. This turned out to be sector rotation, as we pointed out numerous times early in the week. Price action moves sideways. We're consolidating at these highs. The moving averages are moving higher. So the longer we consolidate here, the more probable we have the sideways stepping higher base on base pattern. So we could build a base on base pattern here and then launch from that over the 230 level. Let's look at the industrials, which were trading just above the 20,000 level. At the upper Bollinger Bands, SOTMA is turning up now. We're 3 days on a buy signal. RSI is near 70. Got some really decent volume. So the components of the industrials are looking good. We'll take a look at that before the close. It's 3 o'clock. We're going into the last hour of the trading session. I hope you had a great week. We did at theclosingprint.com. A lot of the traders have been reaping the profits of the watch list, all of which, most of them, moved higher. So let's go back and look at the watch list some more, as we have a few more to cover. MSCC was a semi also on the list. That's moved sideways. It really didn't do anything. RSI continues to move sideways. So this will probably move into this week. It reported earnings this week. Must not have been that great. So maybe it'll drop off. Maybe it'll move over to this week's watch list. We'll see. RDN, that one I believe, if I remember correctly, moved lower over the last 3 days. Yep. So it's back to its 9 EMA. Got a little wick there. 2 wicks the previous days, a lot of wicks. So we see some, you can see right here, those wicks, that there's buyers right under the 18 level and just above the 18 level. So we're on a buy signal. This should continue higher. Watch RSI consolidating, just moving sideways. Bollinger Bands are tight, so that's showing this increase in volatility. What follows typically, obviously, I won't say obviously, but typically an expansion in volatility follows once it compresses, and so Bollinger Bands should open up. MACD's drifting lower, showing the momentum is tapered off, and Stochastic's moving lower. So right now, not much to see here on Radian. This one really had a nice move in December, and we traded that one from the IBD 50. So TTC was also on the list from the IBD 50. We liked that one from Monday. And we had an entry, what was it, 57.50 or better. So we were looking for this level right in here. Didn't really get it. It just bolted higher and hasn't looked back. Now it's starting to pull back just a bit as we see profit taking over the last 2 days. After almost hitting 60, we had a target of, here's our targets. We had a stop at 57.65. That doesn't sound right. Yeah, that's right, 57.65. And we were looking at 52-week highs and a continuation on TTC. We also had Applied Materials, which we talked about earlier. Make sure I don't lose track of what's going on in the room. Okay, so that looks good. Applied Materials was a holdover from several weeks on the watch list, and that's breaking higher end of day. Pulling back a little bit right now. Excuse me one second, I'm going to cough. And SOTMA is sloping gently higher, so it's more like a 15-degree angle right now. The degree of this slope gives us a clue into the momentum, as does MACD. You can see it's pretty flat to slightly inclining. So we've been looking at this one. AMAT was an entry at 33.85 or better right here, and a target at 37.50. So we didn't get the target, but we did get a nice move, about $1 this week. So GNTX was also on the list. We had that at 2090 or better. That one dropped today, so that had to be earnings related. So the beginning of the week looked pretty good. Then we had that doji, 2 spinning tops, Wednesday, Thursday, and then of course today, GNTX, we had 127. Yeah, we had it on the watch list for earnings. So that's why we put the earnings dates on the watch list, so that you're aware of the fact that if you take this, and we had a note over here, earnings run 127, short-term swing, IBD rank number 2. So you got your $2 on the upside, and you should have been out of the stock before earnings. Just checking out the watch list. So PCLM was also on the list. You can see here at 1546 or better. That's the second week it's been on the list, I believe. Yeah, because it was carried over. And we talked about PCLM. Let's look at that into the last hour. As we've seen a little bit of profit taking at the 1600 level. But the entry was 1546 or better right in here. And you got a nice 50 points on that one. So that was an excellent trade. Congratulations, Vantair and the people in the room. Very, very, very nice trade. So that's the reason why some of these, when we carry them over on the week, for members, just so you know, when I carry these over, it just means that it's still a good setup. It might not have triggered during the week like these, but we carry them over because it's a bullish looking stock, and you can see what we were looking at on PCLN, because SOTMA was very bullish. Price action kept coming down to the 9 EMA, and you get these hanging man candles, dojis, and so forth. But you look at all these wicks. That tells you something. It tells you a little story. It was on a buy signal here from early in the year. Continued to push above the 9 and the 20 EMA. Once these two crossed, it gave us a nice look. We had these pivot highs that we were dealing with. We broke above that as well. RSI was trending from a level that we really like to see as it pushes through 50. That gives you an excellent setup. When price moves above the 9 and the 20, we have a 10E Stow MACD setup. You got volume. You got the MACD turning above its signal line. You see the histogram turning, and stochastics is near 20 and turning up. So you have all of the ingredients for a very good setup, what we call the 10E Stow MACD setup. And that's attributed to Joanne Klein on Stock Charts, who first coined that phrase, I believe. I'm not sure if she got it from someone else, but she's a good trader. If you want to check out her stream, give her a shout out. She's really good. Just go to the home tab, and under your membership, I think you can get it somewhere else, but this is the easy way to do it. Go to public chart lists, and you can see right here, Joanne Klein, she's on the top of the list. Got quite a few followers. She has a technique called above the green line, and you can see where the shading comes from. This was from her inspiration. Very easy to see where Stow is, the green and the red zone, and when you got sloping conditions. And she goes into how the 10 Stowe MACD setup. Well, I call it the 10 Stowe MACD setup, but she calls it something different. You can see. So check her out. Give her a shout out. She's definitely a good trader and been on stock charts for some time. And she's got 1,978 followers. She should have more. This is another good one right here. Picture of power. This talks a lot about the muscle and RSI. You see this right here? So that's where we got that term. And you can see what happens. So read through these, and you can learn something as a new trader just by checking out some of these other traders and what they do and what they trade off of, their strategies, okay? Anyway, so that was PCLN. FRC was also on the watch list. That was a bank that reported earnings on February 13th. A carryover for a couple of weeks. These Bollinger Bands got very tight, and then we were looking for a breakout. We got that this week. The entry was 92.60 or better, as you can see here. FRC, and we were looking for 6 points on FRC, 99.50. We didn't get that. The entry, 92.60. So we got 3 points and change, not bad. But note the consistency of these trades and the consistency of the breakouts. Now, of course, sector catalysts also play into our strategy. So sectors have to be doing what needs to be done in order for these setups to work as well as they are. But out of all of these setups, there's about 15 here, maybe 2 to 3 didn't perform. The rest did. So I would call that a pretty good ratio of win-loss setups. Okay, so NTES was another stock that's been on the watch list for many weeks. It came back to the 9 EMA, and I believe Gino might have gotten back into this at some point. Maybe yesterday, because we had this nice wick dragonfly doji, and now we have a doji today. This is probably going to turn back up, but RSI is in an iffy situation. I would rather see RSI back down here near 50, turning up, and price action pulling off the 9 and the 20, because it can get overbought very quickly. MACD and Stowe's turning up. So if you're Gino's listening, perhaps you take some profits if you took a trade yesterday off of this bounce, and we'll look for a better setup. This could continue, so if your stop's down here at 245 or so, you should be okay. But there's a trailing stop coming up very quickly underneath price as we fail to make higher ground quickly. All right, so that's the last one on the watch list. We also had some stocks, additional candidates. We're looking at SMH. If you clicked on that link, that brought up FinViz and additional charts in the semiconductor group. And what I typically do is I'll just go through these real quick, and you can look and see when you got a breakout like Cypress Semiconductor. Then I'd go over to stock charts and see how that trade plays out. Look at it. And during the beginning of the week, since it was on the watch list, you would have had this little descending trend line, a breakout above the 1160 zone. So you would have had a nice trade there for $1 on CY. So that's how you use that link. So when you see my watch list for members, when I send these out each week, check the links, because if you checked on XRT, for example, that was another one. We were looking at weakness in retail, and some of those still look weak. Look at GPS, the Gap stores. Let me pull up that chart. And SPY just continues to move sideways. So let's look at Gap. Okay, so there you go. So that was why we were looking at the retail stocks as a potential continuation short. We got LB Brands. Let's look at LB. Many of these, from the short perspective, continue bear flag lower on L brands. We got Nordstrom. Check out Nordstrom. JWN. That one. We had a nice long trade back here in June, July, August. And then things started moving sideways. Of course, we got this bad news in retail started to happen. Seeing some wicks here, so maybe there's some buyers down here, but for the most part, retail continues to stay below its 9 and 20 EMA. And generally the way I look at that is the way John Carter looks at it. If you're down below the 9 and the 20 EMA, you need to lean towards the bearish side, because typically you'll get, with a descending 9 and 20, you'll get the opposite of an ascending 9 and 20 where you get support on a pullback. In this case, you get resistance on a move higher. And you can see what happened here. So we've got two stocks there in the retail group that continue to show weakness. So that's how to use the links in the bottom of the watch list. If I see a whole group or a whole sector, then you can just go through these and check them out. Okay? Okay, so SPY, yeah, the squeeze has been all day basically. So if you don't have TOS and you'd like to set up a TTM squeeze candidate, so let's take a look at SPY. All you need to do is set up right here underneath your charts. If you got a stock charts account or trading view, whatever, set up Bollinger Bands for the default and Keltner channels. Okay, so the way TTM works, the darker area is the Keltner channel, the green, the bold green line, that's the Bollinger Bands. When Bollinger Bands enter the Keltner channel, that starts the TTM squeeze. And when Bollinger Bands break out of Keltner, that is the trigger. Okay, we can see Bollinger Bands are starting to come back in on SPY, but let's look at some shorter time frames. Let's look at the 60-minute and see how that translates on this time, on this. Okay, so you can see Bollinger Bands are coming together very tight on the 60-minute. This lower band could open up and the upper band could open up. They don't both have to be in, but it'd be good if they both were. So we are below the moving averages on this time frame. Let's look at the 5-minute chart. And you can see how tight Bollinger Bands are inside of Keltner. So this is going to open up very quickly. Which direction it goes, probably leaning more bearish, only because price action's below the 9 and the 20 EMA. It could go, literally could go either way. So the bias is up on a daily. So I'm not willing to bet on it right now. I want to see price action. So get ready for, as John Carter would say, get ready for a move, have a trade ready on the long side, have a trade ready on the short side, and whatever way this breaks out, that's your directional influence on your entry. Okay, so you'll take long puts if it breaks down and long calls if it breaks up. Pretty simple. So that's how you set up the TTM squeeze if you don't have TOS. What else do we want to look at? All right, so Apple was trading. Last time I looked at Apple, I see you guys talking about it in the trading room. Last time I looked at Apple, it was trading near 122. It still is, taking a little profits at the end of the session. 320, I hear my kids walking in, so I'm going to cut the mic for a second, say hello to my son. He'll probably come in and greet me. Oh, he's banging on the door. Hold on a second. Okay, I'm back. So we left it with Apple near the high of the session. Excuse me, near the high of the week. And a little profit taking. Oh, what else we want to look at? Let's take a look at sector summary. Healthcare, as we pointed out, was looking better. Medical equipment all day has been doing better than most. And what we're looking for are previous IBD 50 candidates that are on this list or current ones. Zimmer Biomet, that's been on the list before. Nice looking pattern. Moving into this gap, note the Kirby. Price is trying to push through the 9 and the 20 EMA. So this is actually, you know what? I'm going to save this one so I can reference it later. Because this is pushing through the 200 period moving average. This is probably going to continue next week, showing relative strength. In a sector that's performing well. After a little bit of a pullback on the XLV. So let's watch for healthcare to continue next week. Note the SOTMA is continuing to push higher and very bullish. And we have muscle on RSI. MACD is flat to slightly sloping. Above its signal line, Stowe's moving higher, and we got obvious volume. So institutions have been picking up shares as we based. Phase 1. Phase 2 starts. That's when price action remains above the 9 and the 20 EMA, and we start sloping higher. So that's ZBH. We'll look at this group over the weekend. ABMD, that's also been on the IBD 50 from time to time. Not looking that great down below the 200 period, so we'll pass. Let's look at the Scooter. Scooter is a stock charts technical rank. It's similar to IBD 50, the IBD ranking system. And what we're looking for is a high Scooter, Kutera, a nice slope, and SOTMA. Fairly inexpensive stock. This looks like it's going to continue higher off of this channel pattern. Actually not bad. You know what? Let's take a look at Investors Business Daily. And we'll do a stock checkup. On CUTR. I believe that's been on the IBD 50 before. We'll know very quickly once we see what the composite score is. And SPY just can't get out of its own way. Stock checkup. I hate that IBD is like constant with its advertising. A pop-up will come up shortly. And I'm a subscriber, so that irritates me. CUTR. And we can also see in a stock checkup who's the number one in the group. Massey is on the IBD 50. I think it's on this week, if I'm not mistaken. We'll take a look at that. But suffice to say, this looks good at 1850. Just a little bit above this. Draw a trend line through this red candle and this red candle, these pivots. And it's just peaking above that level right now. It has a buy signal overhead, confirmation 1921, with RSI trending higher. Stowe's already turning, so we got two parts of a 10E Stowe MACD setup. I'm going to save this one because it'll also prompt us to look at Massey, M-U-T-R. I'm going to call it this so that I know to check Massey. And let's see what the stock checkup looks like. 91 is a composite, so that's a good rating. Earnings are due 2/13. So 2/13 is 1, 2, 3 Mondays from now. It's the day before Valentine's Day, obviously. Note the earnings percent change, 271%. Earnings percent change quarter is 8%. Last quarter earnings percent surprise, 200%. You know what? I'm going to take some shares here before this gets carried away. I don't usually do this, but 327, I'm going to swing this into next week. We've got to stop below 18, so say around 7. See this consolidation area right here? Around 1790. Hold on a second. Okay, I'm going to buy this, trying to get in at 1860. And what do we trade today? All right, it's not a whole lot of volume. Only 16,000 shares traded. So if you're a little timid with stocks that trade such low volume, perhaps this is not the stock for you. Just keep that in mind. It has earnings 3 weeks from now, Monday, or 2 weeks from now, Monday. So I'm going to take a smaller position than normal, only because of how thin this is. But it is on the IBD 50. It does have a 91 composite, so I'm going to take a couple of shares here. Okay, I have an order in. We'll see how that fills. Here we go. SPY is dropping off near the lows. End of the session. Money flow is dropping, and STO is now oversold. So this could just be a shakeout or some profit taking. Okay, let me look at this on the 15-minute while we're waiting. Yeah, this is pretty thinly traded. It's okay. Let's see if I get filled. The thing about these thinly traded stocks is that they can pull back very quickly. So if this is not your cup of tea, just move on to the next setup. No big deal. We'll look at Massey too. It's in the car. Your mom said you could watch it? All right, there's the other one's upstairs. Okay?
Is it behind that iPad though?
Well, get my car key and then you can go get it, okay? You need to put your coat on though.
Where's the car key?
My key to my car.
Here.
Yeah, that's it. Put your coat on. Okay. So here's a 60-minute moving higher. Okay, so this is turning the corner, not trading a whole lot of shares. So this is a little thin to win. Anyway, so that's CUTR. So I haven't opened. I have to check my trades there for a second. Let's go back to what we're looking at, which was medical equipment. Massey was in that group. Let's take a look at Massey while I'm thinking about it. All right, so that continues to grind higher. This one is on the watch list. I mean, on the IBD 50, I believe. Yeah, it's on the list. Okay, so MACD's turning a little bit. Had a nice run. Continues to push higher in a sector that's has been oversold. And as we spoke about recently, trading right under the 9 and the 20. It needs to get back above the 9 and the 20 to stick with it. So CUTR is a product of that industry group. I'd like to see this continue to move higher. As this is looking pretty decent, even if it is thinly traded. Okay, so got that little shakeout, and now prices are reversing. Okay, let's look at some more in that group. Biorad, that one sounds familiar. Don't remember. Beat. Okay, we've traded this one before. I believe Michael is familiar with them, being in that business. Heart surgery. Vascular solutions. That was probably a buyout. Okay. Okay. Congratulations, Karen. Nice double on your PCLN calls. Okay, so this looks like a little shakeout. And inside of this larger pattern, not much to look at. GMed, I think this one's been on the list too. Pull back to the 9 and 20. CSII, that's been on the IBD 50. Nah, not moving much. All right, so let's look at some other industry groups and the medical pharmaceuticals. I believe J&J was on that list. Joe had mentioned earlier. J&J. Yeah, it moved a little bit higher today. Let's look at these ranked by scooter. Area. We all know what happened with Area. This was a trade that we took on the 9 and 20 10 Stow MACD setup. And as fortune would have it, they got a buyout 3 days into this breakout. And it ran up a nice 100% move on that setup. Anyway, it's still on the list. Tesaro, TSRO, I believe Joe mentioned this one yesterday, hanging out at highs. Okay, so we got a couple of wicks here at the 9 EMA, starting to roll over, so don't get too excited about a long here, as this could get rejected and push lower. Synergy Pharmaceuticals, that one sounds familiar, moving higher. CUTR, let's see what that one's doing now. And it's backing off. So it's very thin stock. So probably better if you just stay away from it. And we'll look at it next week. Well, you know what? Let's run a scan. Let's do that. I haven't, not a whole lot of time. 20 minutes left in the day. This is because I'm Vinny coming to you live from ticker.tv via theclosingprint.com. Come check us out. Click on the blog and or the picture and check out the blog. There's a sign up link if you're interested, checking out what we offer as a service for new traders and intermediate traders in general. Okay, so let's go to a scan. Let's look at a 50-200 scan. And we'll run that. We're looking for a 50, obviously a 50-200 cross. Corrections of America. I believe we talked about this one a couple of weeks ago. You got the 50 and the 200 crossing now. Let's just update the chart to 50-200. And you can see the 50-200 crossing right here. So that's what it picks up on, and it looks for it in the last day or two. So not a setup yet, but we're watching for it. So what a setup would be, a pullback first, RSI gets oversold. This was really nice back here with RSI oversold, moving higher. MACD was above its signal line, and Stow was down here below 20. And price gapped up and started trending. So this phase 4 markdown period led to phase 1 base that we cover in my book online on the site if you're interested. You can check that out. But suffice to say, the 9 is above the 20 and price is above those and moving higher. So Dividend ETF. These are ETS Kraft Heinz. We'll see how that looks. Moving higher. Let's go to the 5200. All right, so these dips below and move back above doesn't really do anything for us. So let's go to a different scan. Let's look at the 2050 cross. Probably get more candidates on this. 20. Let's put this in a list. And we'll go through the same way. Let's look at it by scooter. So Triton International. And what we'd do from here is we would run it through the stock checkup feature on IBD. You can see connect the pivot highs here. This one broke out already. It's gotten ahead of us. Let's look at the 2050. Okay. Oh, this isn't the 2050 cross. This is the 20. Yeah, that's a 2050 cross. So, all right, something's not set correctly, but let's take a look at this scan anyway. Boom, I like the ticker symbol. All right, so we got a nice rectangular pattern. Look for a breakout there. What I try to do is, many of these won't be on, ranked well by IBD. So I'll look at what the industry group is, and I'll look for the stronger stocks in that industry group in the IBD to trade. Okay, Oshkosh commercial vehicles. Remember WNC. This is another one flagging out at 72. WNC's probably got a good rank. Not WNC. OSK. Let's look at OSK. So what we're looking for is like 90 or above. Here we got a 90 composite rating. Second in the list. IBD rank. We've got earnings. Trading post earnings. Got 86 there. Composite relative strength is 90. Last quarter earnings percent surprise was 116%. Earnings per share percent change 37. Last quarter average earning percent growth 34%. So that looks pretty good. And MLR is the top of the group. So let's look at MLR as well. Okay, a little flag on MLR. So those are two interesting candidates. Caterpillar's on here. We saw Caterpillar moved higher, pulled back, flagged yesterday and today, and now is continuing to push at the highs of the session. Just a little bit off of that. Let's look at Disney. We're going to swing that one. Probably see a little bit of profit taking end of the day. All right, so we're sitting right here at the 109.20 level. Ran all the way up to 109.40 for taking some profit taking against the 9 EMA. Stow is almost oversold now, and RSI staying near the high of the session. Lazard Financial Investments, Ring Central. All right, that one's breaking out. Okay, so it's the end of the day. I'm going to call it quits. It's 3:46. I'll probably sit here and watch the markets for a few more minutes, but SPY is dead, basically going nowhere. WNC. Trying to move higher. Netflix is at the high of the day, 142.04. Not bad. From the 140.50 level, continued to move higher. So that's good. $1.50 on that. $2. That'd be great. Nice trade. Let's see what NUGT finally did end of the day. All right, so it's basically been sideways. Gold, not much to look at. The banks. Huntington Bank shares. That one's off 25 cents, 30 cents from the highs recently. This was one of the other stocks we were looking at in addition to Ozark. That's flagging out. Okay. All right, let's look at Lam Research and KLAC. KLAC. We've traded this one from time to time. See Gino talking about it. Yeah, had a nice pop. Fading that. Lam Research, LRCX. We've traded this one before. Continues to push. NVIDIA. That one's closing near the high of the day. Nice trade, Gino. And the rest of you in the room that took NVIDIA today. CVRR. Let's see, RJ had some puts on this one. Nice trade. You guys really did well, and ladies. All right, I'm going to call it quits early. There's nothing going on here. If we get a push to the upside, it'll just be position covering. And we'll note where we closed the session. This is Cousin Vinny coming to you live from theclosingprint.com via YouTube Live. If you're interested in checking us out, come to the site. Check out the member services page by just clicking on the image that we were just showing you on the main site, theclosingprint.com. And that'll take you to this page. It'll explain the benefits of becoming a subscriber and how you can assist your learning curve as a new trader or intermediate trader using a strategy-based approach to the markets. Okay, so that's going to do it for me today. This is Cousin Vinny coming to you live. I hope you had a great week. To those in the room, have a good weekend. I'm going to go upstairs and spend some time with my son. He's got hockey practice later, so I'm going to go with him. And the daughter has basketball. So we will talk to you later as we watch and spy. I might keep the mic. I might just kill the mic and watch the price action for the next few minutes. So I'll be sitting here watching. Okay. All right. So I'll be watching.